Lesson 62, Fractional Part Word Problems. This is very, very easy. We're going to use an equation that includes the fraction times the total equals the part. So if you think about that equation, it's going to be very, very easy. Now in these problems, what you have to remember is that you're going to have two categories. For example, here we have the happy faces and the not happy faces. So let's read it. It says, 5/8 of gnomes had happy faces. 840 gnomes had happy faces. How many gnomes lived in the forest? So notice that the 5/8 is relating to happy faces, or is talking about happy faces. And 840 gnomes also is talking about happy faces. So the fraction 5/8 relates to the part 840. And we always have to make sure that these two, the fraction and the part, are talking about the same category. So then we multiply times total, which is what we don't know, and now we have our equation. Now to solve for t, we just have to pass the 5/8 to divide. And remember, when we divide by a fraction, we have to multiply by the reciprocal. And before we multiply, we reduce or simplify. So I divide by 5 is 1. And if I divide here by 5, it's going to be 168. Finally, we multiply the 168 times the 8. And the answer is 1,344 gnomes. That's our total. Very simple. Let's look at another example. It says, on Monday, 2 4/5 times the acceptable number of people took resources. If 640 was the acceptable number, how many people took resources? Now notice here, if you read these, you can find your equation. Let's translate it. 2 4/5 times multiplication, acceptable number, so I'll put A, is the people that took resources. So let's put resources there. Then it says, if 640 was the acceptable number, so they're either going to give you the acceptable number or the resources. In this case, they gave us the acceptable number. So we have to just multiply 2 4/5 times 640 because we change the information they give us, 640, in the formula. And to multiply that, I have to pass these two improper. So 2 times 5 is 10, plus 4 is 14 fifths times 640. And when we do that multiplication and division, we get 1,792 people took resources. And that's it. Let's look at this last one. It says, when the fog lifted, 400 ghosts were spied near the outskirts. If 240 ghosts were not spied, notice here we have two different categories again. The ones that are spied and the ones that are not spied. What fraction, now in this one they're asking for the fraction, what fraction of the ghost was not spied? Now remember that to find the fraction, you need the part over the total. What is the part that represents the not spied? Because they're asking for the fraction of the not spied, 240. So we put 240 on the top. Now what is the total? They didn't give it to us, but we can find it because we can add both of the categories. These were the ones that were spied and these were the ones that were not. So this is 640. Now remember that our fraction always has to be reduced. So I'm going to divide by 10 and cancel these two zeros. And then I'm going to divide by 8. And if I divide 24 by 8 is 3. And if I divide 64 by 8 is 8. And the answer will be 3/8. And that's the lesson. I hope it was clear. If you have any questions, write them in the comments and I'll help you. I'll see you in the next video.